Good morning, my MMA boxing addicts. We know we're a couple hours away from Dana White dropping some absolutely huge news on us. Today is the day we are getting some fight announcements from Dana White. So we're just right here waiting. And one thing that I wanted to talk about was the third fight on the main card at UFC 320 between Jiri Prochazka, your number 2 ranked light heavyweight fighter in the world, former light heavyweight champion, and Khalil Rountree, your number 4 ranked light heavyweight fighter in the world, my friends. Both of these guys are coming into this fight on a win. Both of these guys have the potential to possibly lock in a title shot if they're able to get a win this Saturday. One thing that I wanted to say was, for the casual fans who don't really know about these two men, this may just be a fight to you guys. You may just be looking at the betting odds. You may just be putting on these guys based off of skill and not energy or spirituality. Well, let me tell you guys something. The hardcore MMA fans, and if you haven't did your research on Jiri and Khalil, this isn't just your everyday mixed martial arts fight. This isn't just a fight. This is a spiritual fight, in my opinion. You got Jiri Prochazka, who's one of the most spiritual guys in MMA, a true mixed martial artist. Somebody that actually trains under the samurai code of Bushido, right? Somebody who carries the book of 5 rings with them wherever he goes. A book that teaches you earth, wind, fire, air, and the void in life lessons and how to be a leader. Right? Jiri Prochazka, this is a guy that lost his dad at the age of 5 years old, turning 6. You know, losing his dad like that was really, really tough. He had to, be the man of the house. Even though he had brothers and sisters, he started to take on that role of wanting to be the leader of the house, my friends. Right? This is a guy that says that he got into over 100 street fights during his teenage years. Being an athletic guy, playing a bunch of different sports, BMX, right? He talks about being a soccer player. And at the age of 17 is when he finds Muay Thai. And he starts his journey in the MMA world. But this is a man that left his teenage years behind him, somebody that was just partying, somebody that was just fighting all the time, and decided to give his life to the samurai code of Bushido. And ever since then, Jiri is probably one of the most real mixed martial artists that we ever had. This is somebody who locked himself inside of a room for 3 days straight with no lights or anything to just conquer his mind. Right? This is a guy who lives in a cabin by himself in the Czech Republic in the forest. No wife, no kids. And just trains. He hits trees, he hits rocks. This man is actually spiritually connected, like more than any other MMA fighter, any other UFC fighter that I've ever seen in my life. Jiri is a phenomenal, absolutely amazing striker. You know, in 2022, he became the light heavyweight champion, beating Glover Teixeira. Right? And then he was supposed to have his rematch in December. But then ended up suffering that shoulder injury. So decided that, you know what, I'm not just going to hold on to the bout. I'm going to vacate it. And that's what he does. Next thing you know, Glover ends up fighting Jamal Hill a month later. Jamal Hill becomes the champion. Then he vacates the bout. A year later, from Jiri's injury, he finds himself in a fight against Alex Pereira, right, for the vacant light heavyweight championship bout, and gets knocked out in round 2. This was a guy who was looking absolutely amazing heading into that title shot fight, my friends, right? And what was so interesting about this fight was that he was not only facing Alex Pereira, but at the time, Glover Teixeira, a man that Jiri had just beat for the bout, was the trainer of Alex Pereira. So there was so much on the line, and he lost that fight. All right. Then he ends up coming back and fighting Alexander Roches. Finishes him. Then ends up having his rematch with Alex Pereira again in 2024. And what happened to him? He got dropped in the end of the first round and got leg kicked in the second round in the first 5 seconds and lost again. And Jiri told himself that he's not the type of guy that could just lose. He speaks about it. I'm not just the type of guy that can lose. I was meant to win. So what does he do? He hops on a plane, he heads to Japan, and starts to work on his game. And man, dude, as Jiri Prochazka looked absolutely amazing in his last fight against Jamahal Hill, coming back from that knockout loss over Alex Pereira, the second fight. He looked the best that we have ever seen Jiri Prochazka look in his career. His striking was absolutely ridiculous. I talked about it in my other video. You guys think Terrence Bud Crawford in combat sports switches stances really well? Jiri Prochazka might just be the best switch stancer in any sport, my friend. What he did to Jamahal Hill, I broke it down. Every single knockdown, all two of them before he got TKO'd in the third, was all in the orthodox position. He throws a right hand, boom, he switches to the southpaw position, and then threw left hooks, boom. Every single time. There's nobody that switches stances the same as Jiri Prochazka. And in this fight, his head movement looked way better. He actually was keeping his hands up. Going to Japan to train with the old mixed martial art karate masters to learn their way was one of the best things to happen to him. And now he's back, the spiritual Jiri Prochazka, who I would like to call the Avatar. Right? He studies the book of 5 rings: earth, wind, fire, and air, and the void. And Khalil Rountree, man, Khalil Rountree, what a story this guy has, bro. What a story Khalil Rountree has. You know, this is a guy who says he was a loser growing up. An out-of-shape, 300-pound fat guy. Just a guy who had no drive. Somebody that was a gothic kid who honestly says that he was weird himself. He would say this about himself. Yeah, man, I was just some goth kid. I was just weird. Nobody talked to me, right? He says he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and literally drank no water, was just drinking soda. And then finally, when he turns 20 years old, he has a health scare. He says his heart was beating so goddamn fast that it scared him, right? He had to go to the hospital. He started thinking to himself, man, I got to change my life. And keep that in mind. This is somebody who didn't start MMA young in their age. He started at 20 years old, which is ridiculous to think about, to where he is now and the journey he's been at. He lost 100 pounds from being 300 pounds, some absolute out of shape guy working at a fast food restaurant, to losing 100 pounds. And now, look at how his career has went. You know, he's already fought for the light heavyweight championship bout against Alex Pereira. And even though it didn't go his way, it was still an absolutely great performance and a great fight, and showed his warrior in him. You know, he's a smart man, a guy that went back to Thailand to go train his Muay Thai once again, because there was times in his career where he knew he had to work on his game. And now Khalil Rountree, coming off his win over Jamahal Hill, coming from what he's been through, he looked absolutely amazing. I know Jamahal Hill complained at the end of that fight and said, man, you were running, bro, the whole time you didn't want to fight me. But it was an absolutely amazing performance. Technically, he held the distance perfectly. The leg kicks were absolutely amazing. Yes, they didn't trade many shots, but every single time he let that left hook go, being a southpaw fighter, he was rocking Jamahal Hill. And he wasn't letting Jamahal Hill get into that distance, get into that void to where he controls the fight. Khalil Rountree controlled the void the whole fight. And this Saturday, man, the third fight on the main card at UFC 320 might just be one of the most important fights that we have between two guys that I say are spiritually connected. This is not just an MMA fight, my friends. Jiri Prochazka might just be one of the most samurai guys that we have in MMA. And Khalil Rountree, having started from 20 years old, losing 100 pounds to get to where he is now, this is going to be an absolutely fantastic fight. Jiri Prochazka, this guy's going to come in here and do what he does. Switch stances, fight from the southpaw position, fight from the orthodox position, head movement, head movement. He's starting to keep his hands up a little bit more now. And relentless pressure, even when he gets hurt. Right? Dominic Reyes was hurting him before he did what he did to Dominic Reyes. And Khalil Rountree, we seen Alex Pereira use those leg kicks against Jiri. And they worked. You know, Yuri's a guy who uses his feet a lot. You know, he relies on them a lot to get in and out. Uses head movement. He's on his legs. And if you're able to kick that leg off from under him, or at least hurt it, then you have something going. And that is something that Khalil Rountree does absolutely fantastic. He throws amazing leg kicks. That's why this fight on Saturday is going to be so goddamn close. Khalil Rountree has that power to put your lights out. And Jiri is known for being that guy to put his hands down and get clipped with punches. He wasn't able to handle the power of Alex Pereira. So the question is, will he be able to handle the power of Khalil Rountree? I don't know, my friends, but I just wanted to talk about this match, man. This match to me is so important in the MMA world, dude. Let's go.